Thank you everyone for being here. I just want to check with my teammates. Ophelia, you can hear me, right? Okay, well, so my name is Sanjay Shrivastava, and for hopefully you'll enjoy the demonstration of Vocareum Elite. We have quite a few team members on the webinar here, so if you have any questions, they're ready to answer it. So we have Ophelia Yu, Frank Robach, Jeffrey Ng, Rishabh Garg, and Jagmeet Singh. So at any time during the webinar, if you need to go ahead and ask a question, please do so either through the either through the questions box at the bottom or through the chat. So we will, as far as the agenda goes, I will go ahead and introduce Vocarium to you. For some of you who might not be familiar with it, so I'll spend about 15 minutes going over some slides talking about Vocarium, our products, and hopefully some of the functionality about our labs. Then we'll dive into the Vocarium Elite demo, which is the primary purpose of this webinar, and it should last anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes. And then we will go ahead and step into the Q&A section. But as I was saying earlier on, please feel free to ask any questions throughout the initial portion. So Vocarium, we started this company with the mission that learning is better if it has access to top quality labs for the hands-on portion of learning. So we deliver virtual labs and assessments securely, on budget, and at scale. So hopefully these things will become clearer as we go. At this point, we are very proud to say we have cumulatively served about 1.4 million learners, and I believe close to 1 million learners are actively enrolled in Vocarium class. So what do we mean by lab infrastructure? For us, lab infrastructure can mean one of a few things. It might mean a managed application. So for example, if you just need to deliver to your, let's say, a Jupyter notebook to your students, then you can do this quickly. Within 5 minutes, you can upload a Jupyter notebook and go ahead and publish the assignment, and the learners will be able to launch a Jupyter notebook. Or there are some labs we delivered as managed containers. Then there are others through managed virtual machines. And then there are the most flexible one is cloud labs. Now, for example, for managed containers, if you're teaching CI/CD, that's our primary mechanism for delivering our CI/CD lab. So, for example, you might want to go ahead and launch a server and then view it, or which application which sort of architecture we have picked depends a lot on what the virtualization needs are. And so the trade-off is that you can get higher virtualization as you go down, but you trade it off with sometimes maybe a startup time or maybe cost. So for example, a managed application, you can launch a Jupyter notebook maybe in 2 to 3 seconds. Containers might take about 10 to 15 seconds for a learner to launch. Managed virtual machines might take 2 or 3 minutes. But sometimes, let's say if you need to give learner ability to launch a server with a port 80, then you might want to go to managed containers. Or maybe you need to install your own application. So you can start with our container image and launch your own application. You might want to go to manage virtual machines. For example, if you're teaching, let's say, a Kubernetes administration, then that's how it's primarily being delivered. Or for a cyber range, you might want to deliver a network of, let's say, a combination of Windows and Linux machines and Kali Linux machine. Then we have been delivering it through our managed virtual machines. And for cloud labs, you can, for AWS and Azure, your learners can launch their own credential, or you can specify a lab, sort of a data center for them through a cloud formation template. So that's the most powerful and flexible option that we have. So here are the list of fully managed labs. Data science lab, which is very, very popular. Essentially, people come in, then they launch Jupyter notebooks and RStudio. Programming labs, once again, we deliver IDEs for, say, Vocarium has its own IDE, or Eclipse Thea, or Spider, or Visual Code. We'll deliver through our programming labs. and it is used for learning Python, Java, C++, PHP, Scala, Go, Erlang, and all sorts of languages. Windows Desktop, this is how we deliver a Windows streaming server for applications which need a Windows machine. So this is essentially, think of it as our VDI solution. Big data, we have essentially right now Hadoop and Spark we served as a part of our managed capability. For machine learning, typically it means that the learners can launch a machine learning framework, maybe PyTorch or TensorFlow on a GPU. AWS Lab, these are one of our, again, really, really popular labs along with our data science labs. We can give your learners a credential for AWS account, so they don't have to enter their credit card. They just go and launch it into AWS console. But apart from not needing a credit card, these you can constrain these labs via policy. So you can describe what services the learner can launch, but also you can describe you can put constraints, guardrails around budget. Database, MySQL Workbench is pretty popular right now for the first database class. So this is our database lab, which MySQL Workbench as the primary IDE, but we do support other databases as a part of a managed solution, which is Postgres, Neo4j, and DynamoDB, MongoDB, I guess. Then there's robotics. So if you teach your students robotics based on ROS framework, we support that as a part of our managed solution. Kubernetes administration, as I was saying earlier on, this is a network of virtual machines that we deliver, which is being used right now for a full Kubernetes deployment. Basically, you can have right now we deliver it as one master and two worker nodes. Azure Lab is once again just like our AWS Lab, where you can give an account to a learner, which is fully managed and constraint puts in defined by policies and budget. Docker administration is actually a lot like Kubernetes administration in terms of infrastructure. Game engine development, this is sort of new. We are delivering Unity and Unreal Engine development environments, and actually Unreal Engine is in beta, but Unity right now in production. This is delivered through our containers. Cybersecurity, as I was saying earlier on, we do deliver a network of, say, Kali Linux, Windows 2012, Windows 2016 servers, and Linux servers. So you can build a network here for your to deliver a personal cyber range to a learner. Full stack, there are lots delivered through a container architecture, and it has lots of frameworks and databases and web servers already installed. So you can use that to teach full stack, which is, and one is not mentioned here, actually, a CI/CD lab, which is again pretty popular, especially with comes with installed with Git and Jenkins, for example, and Visual Code. So these are sort of and the last two slides, these are the list of the managed labs that we have. And but sometimes that's not enough. So you might want to build your own application, your own architecture. Then you can bring your own Docker image to us, and you can create a network of these, and you can deliver it through our architecture. Same thing about virtual machines. You can share an AMI, and then it can be deployed through Vocarium. So this is completely custom, or even more custom, you can bring a CloudFormation template, and then we will launch it for your learners. So this is sort of how you can bring your own custom solution to your classroom. When we deliver fully managed, what do we mean by it? The big thing is, of course, we do all the provisioning, which means scaling and also termination. So, for example, if a container needs to be launched, we'll make sure that it is launched. Our clusters are auto scaled. If a virtual machine needs to be launched, we make sure that it's launched in the right sort of VPC and connect the application to our proxy servers so that you can access it without as an SSO without needing to log in. You can put guardrails around budget and policies that I've discussed. Persistent work area, so that's a big deal again. So when a learner comes from between sessions, you don't want the work area to be lost. So we'll manage the work area, and how do we manage the work area depends on different architecture. So for example, for our Docker containers, we take our home area and they're mounted on our distributed file system. So even if the container might go and we might take it, may start it and actually terminate it, your work area will be preserved. If you are giving, let's say for Kubernetes admin, if you are giving full sudo access to a virtual machine, we will actually we will take a home directory and then we will save it in our object file system and then deploy it back again when the user launches another session. You can deliver data. So this is another thing which is of course becoming a big deal. You can deliver data as large read-only file system to the learner's jobs, and we manage identity and roles. So identity, essentially, there are lots of different architecture. You can bring you can deliver the identity either through LTI or through SAML or through our API. And what we mean by roles is there are built-in roles for teachers, graders, org admin, etc. So these are common to all of our labs. And these labs were built for education. So what again is common is that there are a lot of education related learning and teaching related capabilities. For example, you can specify team projects or team member. You can form team, either your learners can form teams or you can form teams for them and they can work together on the same workspace. Peer reviews, it's pretty common. Auto grading, so you can, when the learner submits it, you can launch scripts which can check the student's work and automatically specify the grade and maybe send it to your LMS. There's a manual grading infrastructure built-in plagiarism detection. You can provide inline comment. Leaderboard is a gamification option, which is pretty common in our machine learning classes, where when the students submit it, you can immediately compute some sort of a score and anonymously put them on a leaderboard. Uh, it has been surprisingly effective in terms of at least the learner engagement. And very, very recently, about 5-6 months ago, we also launched a multiple choice assessment. So one of the things which we are noticing that some of our customers were saying, look, auto grading is really hard for some of the, like say CICD or some other labs. So you can provide side by side, the learner can work on a lab and then answer multiple choice questions. And hopefully we'll show that in the demo. So the purpose of this webinar is our Vocarium Elite architecture. So for the last couple of years, we have been working on sort of expanding our lab portfolio, and we like to think that we have the broadest lab portfolio anywhere. But we needed to make sure that if you're as the students are going from one subject to another, and they are actually encountering different labs, we wanted to make sure they get a consistent sort of experience. So we launched this Vocarium Elite architecture, which underlying will be the foundation for all of our interfaces. So what we are trying to essentially, we look at three things that we deliver to the learner. We deliver storage, we deliver application, and we deliver information. So hopefully what you will see is that how we are sort of integrating it in all of our different labs. So for example, one of the things which you can deliver consistently, so this is one of our view of our labs. So you can deliver panels, and as you can see on the left-hand side, there's a source panel, console, file browser, and navigation bar. So this is the source panel where if someone, this is our Vocarium's own file editor. So if someone clicks on the one of the left files, so this is how we deliver a file editor. And then this is the console, which right now we are showing a terminal, but it can be anything, any of the other applications we support, for example, Mysql Workbench or Jupyter or RStudio for our managed application, or it could be an application like even a web browser, for example, or a desktop. Then this is the file system, and file system, as you can see, there are three components to it. One is the work area in the middle. This is what the student, this is an editable space where the student works on, so they can change it. Then there's a resource on the top. This is how you deliver, for example, data set to the learner. And in the bottom is submissions. So this is when the student submits it, their work, it goes there, and they can use it to retrieve it, all of their past submissions. And then there's a nav bar. So this is the navigation bar, which is other sort of component which you can turn on or off. And it becomes really useful for if you're trying to embed Vocarium as a part of a page, and you want to deliver, say, fully sort of integrated experience, then you can get rid of the top nav bar. Um, Similarly, so that was the panel portion of our Vocarium Elite. Then there are controls and information. So depending on what lab you're providing, you will see controls. For example, in this case, this particular lab also has Cloud Lab. So you'll see controls like start button, stop button, and reset, which you can turn on or off. Okay, again, once again, it's common to all of our labs. And there are some informational panels like timer, budgets, details, and README, which is the top left name of the assignment. So you can turn on or off any of those information for the learner. So and these labs are designed for being seamlessly integrated in lots of different learning contexts and modalities, like your in-person class, MOOCs, skill-based exams, which became really a big deal last year, as you can imagine, training, boot camp, hackathons. They are designed so that you can do serious work and not just small, trivial sort of examples. So for research, syndication, this is again a really big part now of our effort, where a lot of our customers are saying, I want to package labs with my textbook or my curriculum, so and deliver it to the either our training partners or our educators. So we have invested a lot of energy to how to make that whole flow seamless, and the virtual campus labs. So at this point, I would like to switch to the demo. So what I have done here, and I do apologize for not having it set up. So what I've done here, there are two panels here in the top. Hopefully you can see that. There's the two tabs. This is the teacher view or author view, where you can configure the labs, and this is the student view. So for this demo, we are sort of assuming that you are a little bit familiar with Vocarium. So for example, we have a Python assignment here, and it is configured as a Vocarium standard IDE lab type. And if you go to configure workspace, there is a starter code, and we have put in a Python file and a HTML file, and also it has some grading scripts. We are not going to go through the grading or auto grading part in this demo, but this is kind of a generic, say, a programming assignment in Vocarium. So if you go to the student view, this is what our Vocarium ID sort of looks like, right? Which is, it has got a instructional panel, and if you're noticing that there is actually multiple choice questions, so in the instruction, this is a markdown file, which you can deliver instructions or also deliver multiple choice question. You can integrate it, but the way you flip back and forth is by going to either see the file view, or you go through README, which is actually toggles that view. And let's say if you wanted to see the HTML, then as you can imagine, this is the source HTML, and this is the rendered view of the HTML. So let's go ahead and change the, so I'm going back to the configuration section, and I'm going to change it to our Vocarium Elite view. And just want to make sure that, okay, so Vocarium Elite. And you'll notice that there are some there are some options here, and we are going to go ahead and turn them all on for now. I'm going to save it. So, so I'm back to the student view, and I'm going to refresh the screen. So that should load our Elite architecture. And if you know, one of the, I mean, the few of the differences that you would notice is that the instruction is on the side, so it does not replace the file. So you can go ahead and the student can resize it, and depending on the width of the instruction, they can have a ability to see all of them. They can minimize any of the panes if they want, and also when we hit HTML, then we are delivering the rendered view, not vertically, but we're delivering the render view in the same third panel here. And you can go ahead and go back to the reset. So the big differences here right now are in the instructions and rendered view on the side. And there's all of the Vocarium Elite now. We have a full screen button here, so the learner can get full screen. Even if you embed it, let's say as an iframe, they can go ahead and toggle full screen. The assessment multiple choice is just again as you saw earlier on. So this is the other difference which I wanted to show you, but is we do have an option right now. We have upgraded our terminal for the Vocarium Elite, and the sometimes we used to get some questions about the copy and paste not working properly. So there is actually a new terminal. So those are sort of four things that that which is new. And this is, so let's go back to the setup, and let's go ahead and turn on the Cloud Lab here. So I'm going to turn on, in this case, as I was saying earlier on, you can turn on either AWS or Azure as the two options, but let's go ahead and AWS for now. And then once we did that, let's say once we did that, so what shows up is this budget and time section. So this is where you can specify, as I was saying earlier on, you can put some constraints around it. For example, you can specify the session length, uh, and you can specify the end lab behavior, either the terminate or stop. You can put budgets, monthly budget as total budget, and can specify time budgets. And then if you go to the panel, once again, you can specify start and stop and timer. So I'm just turning it all on here. So let's go back and go ahead and save it, and go back to the student view. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh the screen again. So what that should do, if you notice, a few things have appeared. One is the AWS here, and you see the red dot here, which is saying that, okay, the lab is not ready. And there's a session timer, start and end, and AWS details. So once again, the applications is consistent. You will see in lots of different labs, different applications will show up. So let's go ahead and start the lab. And what this is doing right now is actually launching our AWS lab, which means two things. One is getting a credential, but also if you have specified a CloudFormation template, then it's going to launch the CloudFormation. But in this case, as you notice, saying there's a 1 hour time, and now this has become green, and there's some information about the lab itself, which is, I guess, what this is. And you can get CLI keys. Again, we are not going to go into detail, but hopefully it gives you an idea if we had done of how we are integrating the lab. So another thing which happens is if I go and look at the terminal here, you'll see a .aws directory. So we have dropped the temporary credentials right there in the directory. So the student can launch AWS CLI, for example, and the CLI is installed in this particular image. So this is our AWS, our Vocarium Elite IDE. Let's go ahead and look at the Jupyter here now. So this is our classic kind of a Jupyter notebook, which a lot of people are using. So you can launch a notebook, and on the top panel you get some submit and submit grades and some options here. So now I will switch from for Jupyter assignment. Now I flip back to the teacher view, and I'm going to go ahead and switch Jupyter Notebook to Jupyter Elite. And one of the things which you'll notice here is, again, very similar options here. Now you get to see the file browser, and so I'll leave the file browser turned on. Console is where we are in the middle bar, where we show the Jupyter itself. And let's go ahead and turn reset on. Something else which we have done recently, which is for Jupyter, you can actually, you don't have to launch in the Jupyter dashboard, but you can actually select which notebook you want the students to start with. In this case, there's only one notebook, so that's why the system is only giving one option. So we'll select that. And let's go ahead and do a save part. Now we'll go back to the student view once again, and we'll do a reload. So this is kind of bringing our Elite options. If you notice that there's a file browser on the left-hand side, it's the same file browser, and this is our Jupyter, and it's starting not in the Jupyter dashboard, but starting with the notebook. So one of the reasons why we used to get this request quite a bit from a student saying when they submit a notebook, they want to be able to see it or maybe download it. So this is one reason why this might be a useful option. So once again, you can minimize it. But let's say if the learner goes there and want to see, okay, I submitted 3 times, but what did I really submit? So they can click on the notebook, and this is a rendered HTML view of their submission. So on this right panel here. So this is once again a very, very sort of this is a feature which we used to get asked all the times, like, hey, how do I go and look at my submissions, or how do I download it? So what we used to say is that, okay, switch the view from Jupyter to standard, and then go through that. But this is hopefully much more convenient here. So this is kind of our sort of a Jupyter Elite view. It's again is an identical architecture. So for example, if I go to Jupyter and say I want to turn the assignments on, as well as I want to turn a Cloud Labs on here. And we will go ahead and load the page again. So what you notice that there's an AWS, there is an AWS button here, right? So if you're working from Jupyter Notebook, you can still sort of launch AWS sort of lab, and then you get the credential, and maybe you can call your API from your notebook. And this is because I turned the assignment on, so that's why this is showing up. So that was our Jupyter Notebook view. Let's go ahead and look at the Linux application. So if this particular lab has been set up as a container lab. So this is one of the container sort of images that we provide, which is, so in this case, Ubuntu 18.04, and this image is actually used for our CI/CD labs, as well as our full stack lab that I sort of talked about earlier on. And if you notice, there are same budget. This one is set to $5 and terminate resources. And if I go to, so we'll go ahead and look at the Linux application. So if I launch this Linux application, now this should launch a Docker container. As I was mentioning earlier on, this will take about 10 to 15 seconds to launch, because we're launching container and mounting the home directory for the user. And this particular one has been configured as, for the same container, there are 2 ways to access this. This is our desktop view. And then in this particular this particular window, we are actually launching Eclipse Thea IDE. So as you'll see, there's an AWS lab. So as you can see, all the three applications show on the top. And right now, if you launch it, it will these are getting launched in different tab. So, but if I wanted to, one of the configuration options was launch behavior. If you notice this launch tab, it is saying that do you want to launch all applications in their own tab, or do you just want to replace the kind of the primary window? So in this particular case, it's saying new tab, and that's why it's launching in the desktop in a completely separate tab here. So it is, for example, where the learner can come here and work on their file, and then maybe use the terminal to launch uh, a server, uh, which they're working on as a part of the full stack solution. And then they can go here and launch a browser, which comes integrated Firefox, say for example, browser, and they can use it to access, let's say, port 80 or whatever, right? So this is how a lot of our instructors are sort of teaching CI/CD or full stack. Now, but if you notice, this is only one container, but you can configure our labs to have more than one containers. So then they will be all a part of the network, and they can refer to each other via IP address or host names. So hopefully that gives you a sense of our container architecture. Now, something else which I have done as the last piece is this is the Kubernetes Lab. In this particular case, because it does take 2 to 3 minutes to launch, I did pre-launch the lab. So as you can see, that's why you'll see it's all green already. But again, the same architecture, the instructions on the right-hand side, there's a timer which is saying there's a 3 hour, 5 minutes left. And this particular case is showing you the capability of being able to deliver a network of these machines, either containers or virtual machines. So you'll notice there are 3 master worker 1 and worker 2. And we have configured it so that the workers, you can reach it via terminal. But for master, you have an option of either a terminal or a desktop. So this one is launching a DCV desktop on the master node. Once again, these are all sort of configurable options. So if you want to teach something which has a GUI, then you can use this desktop, and it works really well. So let me just go back and go to the configuration and see if there are anything which I sort of missed in terms of large. So I think the big thing about configuration as far as Vocarium Elite goes, that there are these sections when you're configuring it, which says what's the lab type, and then what resources you want to deliver, and the resources that are basically either cloud labs or Spark cluster. And this is your interactive server type. You're selecting what Vocarium cluster that you launch the container on, or manage application on. Most of the time you don't have to pick because the default is good enough. And this budget and times which will show up if you're selecting either cloud or virtual machines, the part of architecture. Lab interface has the section, panels, controls, information, and launch behavior. This is how you control the behavior on for the learner. And that's all I have. And hopefully at this point, we can take some questions. Let me stop sharing. There was a question here which says, is there a list of all the AWS and Azure Lab students can complete? So as it turns out that we are a pure infrastructure place. So so the labs are all created by our partners. So either there can be university professors or a publisher or partners like Amazon themselves. So we don't have labs such if the student can take, but they are delivered through our partners. And any other question? I don't see the budget. Pat, You asked, I don't see the budget info what's enabled and don't see it in the demo either. So the budget, there are some places, sometimes you will see things like your 2 hours out of 10 hours left or whatever. And let me maybe, and I know what you're saying is that maybe we're showing just the time budget on the top, but let me see if I can go to my, but let me just go ahead and get back to you in that one. But there are cases, for example, if I'm just trying to bring up my, and apologize to keep everyone. So yeah, let me share my screen again. So if you notice here, so because we had turned the budget on, it's saying used 0 of 10 hours in March 2021. So in this particular case, for example, the time budget was set for this Kubernetes Lab. Okay. So someone asked, don't see the budget info. Hopefully I sort of answered this question on the time budget and dollar budget. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I have seen dollar budget, but maybe one of our labs we are not showing the dollar budget, and we will go ahead and answer. We'll go ahead and answer this question. What does reset? Someone asked the question, what does reset button do? So reset button is if the students are working on an assignment, and let's say if we provided them a starter code, then what reset would do is like it completely replace their work area with whatever the starter code was, and it works with Jupyter containers and our managed application. um, Someone had asked a question about Google Cloud, and I don't see it anymore if I missed that, but we only support right now AWS and Azure, but not Google right now, not GCP. So reset, hopefully that sort of answered that question. And then can you share the recording? So from Jonathan is a question which says, can you share the recording with us? Yes, we will. Ophelia will take care of it. I think an email will go out for recording. So I have a question. It says, what's the issue in a case where the learning material is on Canvas for AWS Cloud Practitioner and the labs hosted on Vocarium, but the students fail to have the results reflect on their respective Canvas accounts, and what can be done? So if the integration is working properly through an LTI, and we have a large number of customers working with use us with Canvas, then if you are grading people on Vocarium, then the grades will be reflected on Canvas through the LTI link. If it is not happening, then we, most likely there's no grading being done on Vocarium. So hopefully that sort of answers. So it should work. The grade should get sent to Canvas, but it is possible that again it's not set up for grading. But please let us know. Send us an email, and we can sort of follow it further. I have someone raised their hand. So I was just trying to figure out. Okay, another question from Jason. What time of outcome returns are possible with LTI? Are they able to do partial points return, or is always full points returns? Is the return going to always send last, or can it send best? Is the outcome return system set up on a partner by partner basis? So a few questions. So what you can do for LTI, you actually LTI 1.1. So for 1.1, you could only send one number between 0.0 and 1.0, right? But you could send for Canvas, for example, you can send more than 1.0. So, but only one numbers you can send. And whether it's only the last or the best, actually there's a configuration option in Vocarium where you can specify whether the final score for the learner is either the last or the best. So that is an option, and then we will send that score to then then that we will send that score to the LMS. Is the outcome return system set up on a partner by partner basis? Unfortunately, I don't know what you mean by partner here. So I'm not sure about that part of the question. So either you can clarify when you mean by partner is like sometimes you use the phrase partner to mean that our customers who are actually creating a curriculum and designing the assignment. So in that case, the answer is yes. That is, that's basically Vocarium just provide the platform and the partner sets up the assessment. So that was then other question is, can you say a few words of send links about Canvas integration key points? So Canvas we integrate through either LTI 1.1 or LTI 1.3, which will be launched next week. It's a pretty standard integration. So enrollment comes in, grades get sent. There are a few special things which you have done for Canvas. For example, if you want to launch a new section, then you can set up custom parameters, and will automatically create a new section. There's a nice integration done with the speed grader. So if you're grading, you can see the students' work right in the speed grader. So those are a couple of things. So LTI 1.1, 1.3 section, speed grader, those are some of the key points about Canvas integration. What's your support email? My setup is a third-party recipient of a program funded by a donor agency and AWS. I see, Ophelia, you're typing an answer to that one. So I will, any other questions which I can, where I know someone had raised a hand and I'm not completely sure actually. Okay, now that's gone. Okay. So any other questions before we wrap it up? So obviously one of the the last slide I had is actually some of the future webinars that we are planning. And please go ahead and let me just go ahead and I will share it, the list that we are planning at this point. And oops. So here's some of the new stuff which we have been doing, which we didn't get to talk about it. So we do have a new analytics page now that we implemented over the last 3-4 months. We have been working a lot on Jupyter Notebook upgrades. I got to talk a little bit about it in terms of being able to launch a notebook submission that you can see that through our Jupyter Elite, but there are quite a few others. Content management, I sort of did imply that what we have, how do you make sure if the authoring is done completely separate from, let's say, the instruction, then we are developing a lot of features around it. Assessment is always a big deal. Integrations, I did mention that we are rolling out LTI 1.3 next week. And also we have been doing a lot of enhancements to our REST API and then our HPC solution. So we'll sort of deliver a webinar on what we have been doing as far as high performance computing solutions, mostly targeted at our research. So these are some of the topics that we will hopefully be covering in future webinars. Obviously, please let us know if you would like to cover something different. Someone asked a question, is it possible to arrange another session for our team? From Emmanuel. So I'm not sure which organization you are with, but of course, yeah, please send us an email to support@vocarium.com or sales@vocarium.com, and we will make sure that we will arrange another session. How does Vocarium control the budget on AWS? I mean, that's sort of a complex question. So not one strategy doesn't work. So we have multiple strategies, and through policies and through CloudWatch events, through watching the build files. So this is hopefully we can so we just try to use all of the above strategies, try to keep sort of within the budget within constraints. Any other questions? And in terms of our lab, as we said that The one, someone did ask a question about the GCP. So that's sort of the kind of so the only thing which you're hoping to launch in terms of the new labs and are more sort of a detailed HPC solutions. Otherwise, a lot of focus is going on right now in more integrations and assessments, and of course will respond to um, will respond to customer demands. Um, So LTI wise, do you support 1.3? Yeah. So as I was mentioning, we are releasing in fact 1.3 next week. Right now it's only 1.1. In fact, 1.3 is already released. So if you go to our configuration setting, you can actually pick 1.1 or 1.3. But the only catch is that what is deployed in production right now does not do a great pass back, and we are implementing that, and we will release that next week. But if you need just for enrollment and authentication and getting maybe embedding an ID, you can use it today for LTI 1.1. Any other questions? And if you have any suggestions in terms of what you would like to sort of see in terms of the future webinars, or would love to hear it, or anything else, obviously you can send us here a comment here, or send us an email at support@vocarium.com or info@vocarium.com, or go to our website. There's a chat bot, and you can reach us there too. So it's 10:47. So we had to schedule an hour. So good news is that we are ahead of time. If Vocarium 101. Vocarium 101. I'm brand new to this. Okay, so you'd like to, I see what you're saying. So this was your suggestion that just to do a Vocarium 101, absolutely. And this is something we'll go ahead and we'll take this input and hopefully schedule a Vocarium 101. Yeah, we had sort of delivered the sort of the announcement saying we're going to talk about Elite. So we just wanted to make sure that we sort of focused most of the demo and presentation today, but we will do one where we talk about Vocarium. Okay, we got another thumbs up for Vocarium 101. That sounds great. We'll definitely do that. Yeah, or in terms of any other labs, for example, cybersecurity labs, or we can always cloud labs. We can always do a deep dive into any of the labs. Okay, well, in that case, there are no further questions. Thank you so much for joining, and hopefully you got. Is there a way for, actually, I did get one more question. Is there a way for students to know if their labs are successful? I don't know which lab are you talking about it. So for example, if the students submit their lab, as an author, you can design some feedback to them. So they can immediately get a feedback through what we call a submission report. So the answer is yes. There is a way for the students to do their lab and do a submit. And then depending on what's been authored, either as a grade or as a comment, you can actually provide a feedback to the student as an author to say whether your lab succeeded. Now, if you're talking about a specific lab which was authored by someone else, then obviously, then we have to have discussion with someone else. Is there a way? So another question to ask: the way for students to know if their lab successful? Hopefully, I answered that. So there are lots of assessments. So capability. Going back to the question about lab being successful, you can, for example, if anyone takes Cloudera's certification tests, we actually, after the student does we will launch their big data lab, and when the students are done, we'll run some scripts and immediately evaluate it. So there's infrastructure is there to provide all sorts of assessment and feedback for the learner, and all of it's automated. So it's just a matter of authoring it for the lab that you're talking, must be talking about it. There's a question about, I'm interested in doing my SQL assignment. What's a good link to help me with this? The one I found does not match my current Vocarium environment. So let's actually, unfortunately, I don't know the answer to this of the top of my head. Let me get back to you. I think we are taking this down question, and we'll get back to you on that one. And if we might need to sort of add our documentation in the MySQL assignments. Unfortunately, we spent last year a lot of time just adding a lots of lab capabilities. So I can see some of the documentation is gotten out of date, and we'll go back and check again and get back to you. But in terms of documentation in general, it's on help.vocarium.com, and that's where we are adding all the documentation. Any other questions? We see there are a lot of our long-time customers here on the call too. So if you have any sort of feedback, comments, we'll take it. Otherwise, we'll just and thank you. I just for being here, and it was awesome to get to present what we have been doing. And hopefully, we'll see you all soon on another webinar. Thank you.